Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, I'm bringing you a powerful, emotional, and deeply inspiring Christmas story, one that proves kindness still exists, that judgment is often wrong, and that sometimes the people you underestimate are the ones carrying the biggest hearts and the heaviest burdens. So sit back, relax, and let me take you into the life of a father who just wanted to make his daughter smile again. Even if the world around him tried to humiliate him for it all begins on a cold December morning, the kind where the wind cuts right through your jacket and the air smells like winter and wood smoke. The city was buzzing with Christmas decorations, lights hung across storefronts, and kids running around with Santa hats too big for their heads. But for Daniel, a hardworking single father in his late 40s, Christmas had been tough for many years. His daughter, Lily, used to love the holiday season. She used to decorate the tree, bake gingerbread cookies, and beg him to take her to see the lights downtown. But ever since her mother passed away 3 years earlier, something inside her had dimmed. She smiled less, laughed less. And though she tried to act like she was okay, Daniel saw the broken pieces she tried so hard to hide. This year, he wanted to change that. He wanted to bring back even a little of the magic she had lost. And that's when he decided he would get her something she had dreamed of for years, a car. Nothing fancy, nothing new, just something safe, reliable, and hers. She was turning 18 soon, about to start college, and Daniel wanted to give her something that would help her feel independent, hopeful, and cared for, but there was just one problem. Daniel didn't look like the kind of guy who could afford a car. Life had been rough on him. Years of hard labor as a mechanic had worn his clothes, stained his hands, and left him with the look of someone who worked too hard and slept too little. He didn't have shiny shoes, a fancy jacket, or smooth, polished speech. He had calloused palms, old boots, and a soft voice that sometimes made people overlook him. And although he had saved every spare dollar for years, skipping meals, working late shifts, fixing neighbors' cars, and doing anything he could, no one knew how hard he had fought to make this Christmas special. So when he walked into that car dealership, tired, humble, and hopeful, the reaction he got wasn't at all what he expected. The moment he stepped through the glass door, the laughter hit him. Not loud, open laughter, but the kind whispered behind hands, exchanged through smirks, and shared in the rolling eyes of the salesman. They looked him up and down as if he didn't belong there. As if someone with worn-out boots and a faded jacket had no business walking into a showroom filled with shiny cars and polished floors. But Daniel didn't say anything. He didn't complain. He didn't ask for respect. He just quietly approached a car he had seen online, a used but reliable sedan, clean, safe, and perfect for his daughter. A salesman with slick hair and an even slicker attitude finally walked up to him, barely hiding his annoyance. "Can I help you, sir?" he asked, emphasizing "sir" in a way that felt more insulting than polite. Daniel nodded. "Yes. I'm interested in this one. The used sedan. I'd like to take a closer look." The salesman raised an eyebrow, a mocking smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. "That one? Sure. But just so you know, it's not cheap. Maybe you'd like to start with something more affordable?" Daniel ignored the jab. He wasn't there to impress anyone. He was there for his daughter. So he asked the questions any serious buyer would ask: mileage, accident history, maintenance records. But the salesman answered with the tone of someone convinced Daniel couldn't afford anything more expensive than the air in the room. When Daniel asked about the final price, the salesman smirked and crossed his arms. "You sure you want to know? It's a bit pricey for, well, someone on a tight budget." Across the showroom, 2 other salesmen laughed under their breath. Daniel paused. Not because he was embarrassed, but because he was tired of being judged by strangers who knew nothing about him, tired of working so hard only to be treated like he was invisible. But instead of reacting, he simply nodded and asked again, "Just tell me the price." The salesman sighed dramatically and told him, and that's when everything changed. Daniel didn't negotiate. He didn't flinch. He didn't ask for financing plans or monthly payments. Instead, he reached into his worn jacket, pulled out a thick envelope, placed it on the hood of the car, and said calmly, "I'll take it. All cash." The room went silent. The smirks disappeared. The laughter died like someone had unplugged the speakers. Every salesman who had ignored him suddenly froze, their eyes glued to the envelope stuffed with neatly stacked bills. The slick-haired salesman blinked, his confidence crumbling. "Yes, sir, this is cash." Daniel nodded. "Count it." As the salesman fumbled with the money, apologizing over and over again, the manager rushed over, suddenly warm, welcoming, and overly polite. But Daniel wasn't interested in their sudden change of heart. He didn't want their attention. He didn't want their approval. He just wanted the keys, and to leave. After the paperwork was done, Daniel walked out of that dealership with the keys in his hand and a quiet smile on his face. Not because he enjoyed proving anyone wrong, but because he could already imagine the look on his daughter's face when she saw her Christmas gift. He drove the car home slowly, carefully, like it was the most precious object in the world. When he pulled into the small driveway of his modest home, he parked it under the old oak tree Lily loved. He placed a big red bough on the hood, a bough he had bought weeks earlier, long before he even found the right car, and then, he waited for her to come home from her part-time job. When Lily walked up the driveway, shivering from the cold, she barely looked toward the tree. She didn't expect surprises anymore. Her life had been too full of disappointments, too full of loss. But when Daniel stepped outside and gently said, "Merry Christmas, sweetheart," she turned, and froze. There, under the branches dusted with snow, was the car, her knees almost buckled. She stared at it like she was staring at a dream she had buried years ago. Tears filled her eyes, and she slowly walked toward it, touching the cold metal as if it might vanish. "Dad, what is this?" she whispered. Daniel smiled softly. "It's yours, Lily. Merry Christmas." She covered her mouth with her hands, her voice cracking. "Dad, we can't afford this." "You shouldn't have, I wanted to," he said. "You deserve something good. Something just for you." But the truth she didn't know, the truth he wasn't ready to tell, was that buying that car wasn't easy. It cost him more than money. It cost him long nights, sacrifices, and pain he never spoke about. But seeing her face in that moment, every sacrifice felt worth it. She turned to him, tears streaming down her cheeks, and hugged him so tightly he felt like she might never let go. "Thank you, Dad. This is the best gift I've ever received." But the story doesn't end there. The next day, something unexpected happened. A video went viral. Somebody at the dealership had recorded the entire scene, the laughter, the judgment, the moment Daniel placed the envelope of cash on the car. The clip spread like wildfire. People online were furious at how he had been treated. Others were inspired by his strength, his dignity, and his love for his daughter. Suddenly, the dealership was flooded with angry comments, bad reviews, and demands for an apology. Their smug attitudes had become their downfall, and Daniel, quiet, humble Daniel, had become a symbol of resilience, a father who would do anything for his child. But Daniel didn't care about fame, attention, or justice. He didn't even know his story had gone viral until a neighbor showed him. For him, the only thing that mattered, the only thing that ever mattered, was his daughter's happiness. A week later, Lily passed her driving test. The first time she sat behind the wheel of her new car, she looked over at her father, her eyes full of gratitude. "Dad, I promise I'll make you proud." He laughed softly. "You already have." And with that, she drove off, her heart lighter than it had been in years. But something else happened that Christmas, something Daniel didn't expect. Lily, inspired by her father's hard work, decided she wanted to do something meaningful with her future. She applied for scholarships, worked harder in school, and started pursuing her dream of becoming a nurse. She wanted to help people the way her father had helped her, with quiet strength, sacrifice, and love. Months passed. Seasons changed. And every time Daniel saw that car parked in the driveway, he felt a warmth in his chest. Not because of the car itself, but because it reminded him that even in a world full of judgment, cruelty, and assumptions, love still wins. Kindness still wins. And sometimes, the most underestimated people are the ones with the biggest hearts. The dealership eventually reached out to him, desperate to clear their name. They offered apologies, discounts, statements, but Daniel never responded. He didn't need their words. His victory wasn't about humiliation or revenge, his victory was his daughter's smile, and that was more than enough. But the story continues, because life has a strange way of rewarding those who give without expecting anything in return. One afternoon, while Daniel was working in the small mechanic shop he had run for years, a well-dressed man walked in. He introduced himself as the CEO of a large auto service chain. He had seen the viral video months earlier and had been searching for Daniel ever since. "I saw how you handled yourself," the CEO said. "Calm, respectful, grounded. You're the kind of person I want leading one of my shops." Daniel blinked, stunned. "Sir, I don't have a degree. I don't have fancy training. I just work hard." The CEO smiled. "Exactly. And hard work is worth far more than a title." And right there, on that ordinary afternoon, Daniel was offered a job, one that would double his income, give him better hours, and finally allow him to rest, to breathe, and to live the life he had sacrificed for so long. When he told Lily, she cried tears of joy. "Dad, you deserve this. All of it." And maybe he did, because sometimes life tests the strongest people the hardest, but it never forgets to reward them in the end. So this Christmas, when you're surrounded by your loved ones, remember Daniel's story. Remember that you never truly know someone's struggles just by looking at them. Remember that kindness doesn't need wealth. Remember that judgment is often wrong. And once in a while, just once in a while, someone you thought had nothing may show you what true richness looks like. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need a reminder that good people still exist. And as always, stay kind, stay humble, and I'll see you in the next video.